Maybe, just maybe, all of our striker problems have been solved. Welcome to Seagulls Central. Welcome to my channel. My name is Adam MacDonald. And welcome along for the instant reaction to Brighton and Hove Albion's win against Oxford in the second round of the Carabao Cup, where, my God, we've got a lot to talk about. Yes, it's Oxford. Yes, it's a lower league opposition. We know all of this, but goodness me, we've seen some signs tonight. We've seen some, I'd say, improvements in terms of, I think it's provided us with a bit of hope, hasn't it? We've seen new signings. We've seen goal scorers. We've seen moments of magic. We've seen young players come through. It's been a really, really exciting evening to be a Brighton fan, and I think it's been one of those that we've been kind of waiting for. We were waiting for this in pre-season. We were waiting for this in the first couple of games of the season. We kind of feel it. Maybe this will be the injection into our season that we need. As I always say, if you're new to this channel and you haven't already, or you've been watching for a while and you haven't got round to it, I would love it if you could just smash that subscribe button, turn your notifications on. I genuinely promise you it means more to me than you know. It helps me continue doing this channel as regularly as I can. And yeah, I would have really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. Right, well, let's get into it. So this was a game where Fabian Hurzeler, I think there was probably it's never pressure. I think, it's never pressure with Brighton in the sense that I don't think the fans were ever fully on his back. But I think there was an underlying kind of sense of, okay, what are some of the decisions that the manager's making here? We want to see a few more players. We want to see some of the new signings. Where are they? What's going on? Why are people aren't telling us where these players are? Well, we saw a lot of them tonight. 11 changes made. Costulas and Tzimas on the bench. Tommy Watson on the bench. Starting with Gruda, who played basically as a split striker with Diego Gomez for 60, 70 minutes of the game. We saw Ferdi Kadioglu from the start. We saw Veltman from the start. Boscagli, Coppola, all from the start. Jack Hinshelwood was back in. I'm probably missing someone. Harry Howell as well with his first start, his first senior start for Brighton. In the men's senior team. And then all of these other players on the bench, Costulas, Seamus, Watson, Charlie Tasker, a variety of different players. And we saw, there's so much to talk about. There is so much to talk about. What I'm going to start with, I'm going to start, I guess, really from the back, from the end to the beginning. And I'm going to talk about the Seamus 2 goals and the impact from him and Charalampos Costulas, who came on in around the 60th to 65th minute. Seamus came on first, 65 minutes. Him and Watson came on. Baleba came on too. And as soon as Seamus came on, I think we could all tell that this guy, okay, he's proper. And okay, he's 19. And okay, he's raw. And okay, it's Oxford. And yes, the Premier League is a different beast. It's a different level. We take that. But I'm going to talk about what I thought he looked like. What I loved is that his literal first action was him receiving the ball pretty centrally, fairly deep into our, we were in our attacking half, but we weren't anywhere near the goal particularly. He receives the goal. What does he do? He turns, he faces goal, and he runs with it and pops it off to someone else. And he looked really, really sharp. His touches looked sharp. His popping off his link-up play looked really nice and sharp. I was really, really impressed with that. Not long, by the way, I've got all my notes here. So if you see me glancing to here, I'm trying to remind myself of my notes because there's so much to talk about. So his first goal, he had that opportunity where he kind of, was running at the ball. You kind of see his sharpness immediately. You're excited. I began to think, oh my God, you can just, you can kind of just tell by a touch, by a movement. You could tell this guy was decent. Then about 5 minutes later, he was on the score sheet. As we all know, the ball from Harry Howell, just kind of off the right. He won the ball back after a sloppy bit of play from Oxford in the middle of the park. Howell slips him through. And Seamus, one thing that I noticed in the kind of 5 minutes that he was playing before he got his goal, he was constantly looking for runs. He was on the shoulder, looking for that run, looking for that long run, looking for that run. And yes, there was a lot of space to run into, but he was looking for that space all the time. And there was a few moments where Gruda couldn't find him. You can see him getting a bit annoyed and go, come on. And Howell finds him. He makes this run. He's in bags of space. He's got bags of time. And in that moment, when it slows down, you think, okay, he's one-on-one. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Does he have the coolness? By God, he had the coolness. Really, really nicely. Right-footed finish into the bottom right-hand corner. Beautiful finish. And I will say, I think stylistically, I've said it before, he reminds me of Evan Ferguson in terms of his size, in terms of his shape, in terms of the literal way he moves his body, the way he receives the ball. He's got that poacher's clinical finishing instinct and the style of finishing that we saw from Evan Ferguson, when we've seen from Evan Ferguson. It's interesting. I wonder whether the club view him as a direct replacement to Ferguson, obviously, as someone who's gone out on loan. Maybe they see him as an upgrade. But I think what I really liked about the first goal, and we'll get onto it with the second goal, was how clinical they were. They were moments where, one-on-one against the goalkeeper. They're difficult moments. We've seen Welbeck fluff those in the past. We've seen plenty of strikers fluff those in the past. And all of his opportunities, when he had them, when he was in front of goal, finished with aplomb. So I really hope this is a sign, hopefully that kind of level of clinicalness and the finishing is something that can be translated into a Premier League level. Yes, okay, you won't have that much time, you won't have that much space to make your decisions, but actually that instinctive ability to be clinical and find the back of the net when you're presented with that opportunity, surely that is something that's transferable. So that provides me with hope. The second goal again, Harry Howell wins it up. He's kind of high up on the left-hand side. The ball kind of breaks in the box. There was a bit of sloppy play from Oxford. Plays it into Seamus, who's pretty central. Just had to do the business, and he finishes again, bottom right-hand corner. Very kind of similar finish, just a clean, nice finish. He kind of almost passes it into the net under the goalkeeper. And I don't know, what does that emphasise? It emphasises that he's clearly a very, very talented finisher, constantly looking to make runs, constantly looking to get in behind. And I think it's a really, really positive sign. Is he a player who is ready to go and start in the Premier League next week? I don't know, but I think what it does is it creates a lot more questions for us. Okay, maybe he's not ready to start. He played, 25 minutes tonight? But with that said, it provides us with an option when a lot of us aren't too sure about Matt O'Reilly playing. We're not too sure about this or that. You have a performance tonight from Tzimas. You have a performance tonight from Gruda, who absolutely ran the show. Is he going to slot into the 10? Are we going to have Rutter in a 10 and Seamus in a 9? How soon are we going to see that? I think, the trouble with this kind of game is it does raise a lot of questions for Brighton fans. We think, flipping it, we want this now. I think given the context of these striker struggles, I think seeing Seamus on the pitch, seeing him do so well was absolutely brilliant. And one thing I will say as well, Costulas, we saw him a little bit less. He probably only got about 10-15 minutes. He came on about 5-10 minutes after Seamus had scored maybe both of his goals by that point. And there was a couple of opportunities. You could see Costulas trying to make those runs, getting into space, wanting to take shots on. He looked like he was one of those players who really wanted to get in and amongst it. And there were a couple of moments where I think Gruda could have played him in, should have played him in. And it was a bit of a shame that kind of didn't work out. You could see Costulas really wanted that moment. But you could tell the brightness from him as well. Another point I want to make is around the new signings more generally. Coppola, Boscagli, obviously Tommy Watson as well. Separately, Gruda doing really well and Diego Gomez getting his first goal. I want to make a quick thing before I talk about the new signings. Is about Diego Gomez. I thought him and Gruda, particularly in that first half, but for the whole kind of 60-70 minutes that they played together, I thought they operated very, very well together, particularly Gomez. And I'll get on to Gruda because he probably had a man of the match display. But I really liked the way Gomez played. He was tenacious, he was energetic, he was making runs all the time. They were kind of playing as that kind of split striker, weren't they, the two of them? It was interesting, we weren't playing a conventional striker, playing as that split striker. I thought Diego Gomez played it so intelligently, he linked up brilliantly with players like Milner and Howell and obviously Gruda as well. So I think a shout needs to be given to Diego Gomez because I thought he was really good. But separately, when we talk around the new signings, let's talk about Diego Coppola, let's talk about Olivier Boscagli. I think my shout out that I want to give out of those two, but I thought they were both very good. And let's make no mistake, they both had a very good game. They kept clean sheets, 6-0, you can't complain. However, what I will say is I thought Olivier Boscagli did really stand out to me. I mean, let's be fair. He's a good 6-7 years old. Well, probably less, 4, 5, 6 years older than Diego Coppola. He's like 26, 27, PSV captain. An experienced player, a player who is ready, clearly, to come in and play at the Premier League level. There is absolutely no doubt about that. You can see from the way he plays. I just loved his performance. And some of the notes I made early on around his performance was around the maturity that you would expect in the way that he played. Honestly, the way you could hear him talking, you could hear him bossing around the backline. You could watch him physically organising that backline. But also there were a few moments where you could just see him read the game at a bit of a different level, a bit of a different IQ. Whereas I think maybe Coppola was trying to really impress, get on the ball. You could see it just came a little bit smoother, a little bit easier for Coppola. I don't know what you thought. There was that kind of composure and that quality and that calmness and that composure in his play. The reading of the game was brilliant. There were a few moments where there was a moment I remember where he was really tight to a player as the ball was coming in, a big long ball, and the striker couldn't read that it was going to bounce in front of him and bounce over. So, Boscagli did this brilliant thing where he got close, he then pulled back and was then able to, intercept the ball as it bounced over the striker. It was really intelligent play, and that coupled with some brilliant tackles, fantastic kind of ball playing ability, really pinpoint passing. I thought this is clearly a very impressive sign. This is clearly a player who's ready to come in. And I was more expecting a Coppola, someone of that kind of profile, to be one of the players that we might promote quicker. But I wonder after that performance, Boscagli might need to be playing in the Premier League pretty soon. He looks very, very good, and I'm certainly going to be banging the drum for him. I think he just looked like a player who looked like he had a touch of class, a touch of quality, a level of reading of the game, which is really, really promising. Coppola as well, let's make no mistake about it, looked big, looked strong. I've said it before, looked like a Rolls Royce, looked like he was playing the game at a different speed to everyone. Some nice passing. I thought they were both very, very strong. And a shout out while we're here, we're talking about the back line, it would be remiss of me not to mention Jason Steele. 3, 4, 5 brilliant saves. Let's start by talking about the save he made right at the start within the first minutes, where Igor gives the ball away and Oxford basically have a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, could have changed the whole game. Still makes a brilliant save all the way down right to the end in the last 5 minutes, where he makes an amazing couple of saves. Baleba makes a goal line clearance. Jason Steele with a brilliant performance, great feet, great playing out from the back. I should really be talking about him, for 5-6 minutes here. I'm not going to because we've got so much to get into, but a very, 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 very strong performance. Just looking at my notes, I've written a whole section here about Boscagli looking a class act. Oh, I haven't even mentioned this goal. Goodness me, yeah. That goal was great. It was interesting because obviously Gruda had those opportunities a few minutes before where he kind of fluffed his lines and he was kind of played in and he'd taken it around the goalkeeper, and you could tell he was desperate to tap it in with his left foot, Gruda. And he just should have played it with his right foot. He missed it, he fluffed it. It's silly, immature play. 5 minutes later, the ball comes in from a free kick or a corner. And Boscagli, it drops to him. He finished it, curls it top left corner. It's a striker's finish. It took a bit of a deflection, but it was brilliant. Great for his confidence. But actually, it came after I'd spent kind of 20, 25 minutes thinking, God, this guy looks so impressive defensively. So a brilliant, brilliant performance from him as well. So my next point is really just around how Gruda ran the show. So, scored a brilliant goal. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm just trying to remember everything I've written. Yeah, I mean, he was, and I don't even need my notes to make this point. He just ran the show all evening, dribbling, technical touches, linking up with players. I think there were moments where it felt a little bit like, the kind of kid on the playground who's clearly much better than everyone else, and they're kind of hogging it sometimes, and they're trying to dribble around players when they shouldn't do. It felt like there was a little bit of that immaturity in his game at times. I don't know whether you'd agree with that, whether you think that's being a little bit harsh, but I think on the whole, everything came through him. Everything came through him. He obviously got his goal. It was a brilliant goal. Milner with a beautiful switch of the play out to the right-hand side, which, by the way, I thought Milner had a very good game. I thought Milner played a couple of brilliant through balls through the middle from midfield into players who kind of ended up fluffing the lines. I think there was one for Gruda, there was one for Gomez. I think for a shout-out for Milner, who actually had a very, very good game himself, and I think, won't get the headlines, but played very, very well. Milner played a brilliant ball out to Veltman. Again, played very well himself, Veltman. And then knocked it in from the right-hand side into a bit of space in behind. On the right-hand side, Gruda kind of runs onto it, and then he's able, with his left foot, to score a lovely goal. And it was a very, very good finish. Again, there was a lot of time there, but just generally with his play, everything came through him. He had that intensity, he had that drive. You could tell he almost had a hunger, where he felt like maybe he had a point to prove. Maybe he was clearly he was trying to play his way into this team, and everything came through him. He was linking up with the players brilliantly. Him and Harry Howell on the pitch, almost like carbon copies of each other in terms of playing style, with both that kind of left foot and both technical ability they have. I thought it was really, really good. constantly driving forwards, constantly committing defenders, dribbling past players at will. He would actually, and this is a point I've made here actually, he would single-handedly kind of create space for us and drop Oxford defenders to the floor. He would open up their defence single-handedly, and I thought it was a very, very good performance from him. Where does that leave him? Does he come in and start against Man City? I do have questions around how this whole number 10 and striker situation looks going into the Man City game. I can't imagine, Hurzeler's going to make wholesale changes and we're going to see Seamus starting up front with Gruda behind him. But I understand it more from Seamus' perspective in the sense he's coming back from an injury and he's only played kind of 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes. But I think with Gruda, I think he has played his way into the team and I think he will be feeling kind of slightly hard done by if he doesn't start against Man City, because I think what you saw there was a player who wants it, a player who's ready, a player who's, he just looked really, really good. And I think obviously man of the match for me. I think you can talk about Seamus with his 2 goals, you can talk about Watson with his goal, you can talk about Boscagli, very good, lots of players very, very good. But I did think it was the Brajan Gruda show for most of it. And it was nice to see him at the end, obviously Seamus doing the way with the way end of Brighton fans loving it. And Gruda got involved in that as well, which I thought was really, really nice. So I'm excited for him because he was a player who obviously last season, I think a lot of us kind of spoke about. He looked brilliant. He looked technical. He looked like he was at that level technically, but it didn't look like he was there kind of physically. And it wasn't really until the kind of last third of the season where we saw, okay, this guy's clearly becoming ready. And I think maybe we're now coming into an era where actually he's going to be ready to shine. I want to talk as well about Harry Howe. 2 assists on his debut, on his full Brighton senior debut. Thought he played very, very, very well. Combined brilliantly in the first half with your players like your Grudas, like your Milners, linking up with them. He was playing on the right wing for most of the game with Joel Veltman in behind him. And I think in terms of our shape, it was a bit interesting. We kind of moved from it was kind of 4-4-2 in a sense, but also we'd kind of switch into a 3 in possession sometimes when the left back would go around and the 3. It was quite an interesting setup. But Harry Howe had a lot of space on the right-hand side and he looked really, really good. Constantly looking to get on the ball, looking to dribble at players. Him and Gruda had played very, very similarly. One thing about Howe is I think he found the pass a little bit more and I thought he looked really, really good. Stretched their defence. I think there were a couple of really good moments. I think it was the Gruda goal, which was brilliant, where Howe intelligently kind of came really, really wide and stood out on the right-hand touchline, dragged the defender out, and then that made space for Gruda to get in behind and get the space to score his goal, why there was loads of space. And you can just tell from Howe, in the way he plays, a 17-year-old rarely plays with the kind of level of vision and understanding and maturity. And I think what I saw from him was a player who he pops it off really quickly. He doesn't dither and want to hold on to the ball for too long. He understands the speed you need to play with. He understands that actually linking up with players is more fruitful than trying to do things on your own. And there is that level of maturity, and you can see it in the way he plays. And I thought he had a very, very good performance. I really like the fact that the reports have been that the club are going to keep him in and around the first team this season, but he's not going to get a loan. And I'm really pleased that we are going to see him in the first team because he looks like a player. I've said it before, he's Premier League suited. And we saw it tonight against Oxford. He linked up so well with our players, and it was a very, very good performance. Another point I want to talk about, Tommy Watson, obviously he got his goal. Look, it was hard to... There was less of a kind of clear impact for him. Obviously he got his goal. I don't think we saw, moments like we did with Seamus where we could see, okay, his finishing's really good or his dribbling's really good. Watson didn't kind of get on the ball as much. He wasn't kind of taking his man on every single time, but he looked very good. He looked sharp. He looked technical. He looked like he wanted to get in beyond. He was linking up well with kind of midfield players, giving it and then going and running in behind. I think he is going to be the Mitoma backup this season. He's got similar attributes in terms of his dribbling, in terms of his technical ability. Absolutely. But his goal was brilliant. Curled in an absolute beauty. It was our 6th goal. And, a brilliant moment for Brighton's kind of, new signings tonight. The goal came from Seamus, who had I think the ball had ball had been won back by us, and Seamus kind of won it back high up the pitch, and it kind of loosely, Seamus doesn't have full control of it, and it kind of drops to Tommy Watson on the left-hand side. He's running into the box, just on the edge of the box. He's inside the box. Tommy Watson curls it right-footed into the top right corner, and it was an absolutely lovely finish. And again, like, he's got a lot of space. He's got a lot of time. It's one of those where, maybe you don't get that space. Maybe you don't get that time in the Premier League. That clearly is, maybe a goal where the opportunity wouldn't come about in the Premier League. However, what I will say is actually the finish was brilliant, and you can tell he's got that quality. He curled it into the top right corner, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I think overall the takeaway's got to be this. The new signings look good. We've finally seen the Greek lads. And I'm going to say, I think Seamus particularly, and Costulas looks like he's got it as well. Let's make no mistake. But Seamus potentially looks like he could do something for us this season. He could be a goal scorer for us this season. I think he's got that predatory instinct that a striker needs, and that clinical way about him that a striker needs. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about Seamus. I'm feeling good about Costulas. It was nice to see Watson play a little bit, get an understanding of what he's like. Finally just see them in the shirts, see them in the kit. Do you know what I mean? It's just nice to finally see that. Boscagli, Coppola, very good performances. We'd spoken them up before the game, but they've actually delivered it, which is always good to see. And yeah, I think particularly with Boscagli, it kind of opens up a conversation. I think, going into the Man City game, maybe there's more questions than answers now. Maybe we do have some more answers, and I wonder what Fabian Hurzeler will think going into that game, and if he will make any changes to his 11 based on this match. But yeah, a really, really successful night. Loads of positives. Probably plenty of things I've not even spoken about. Plenty of players who had a good game that I've not even spoke about. But a really, really positive night, and one where there's always a bit of jeopardy, isn't there? You always kind of wonder, could we get knocked out of the box, or would it be a bit awkward? But actually, early doors, getting a few goals, having some really, really influential performances from players like Gruda, players like Gomez, Hinchell were doing really well as well. Howell playing really well as well. So it's really, really positive. Boscagli, Coppola to Steele. So yeah, absolutely buzzing from that game, and I hope you are too. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought of this game in the comments. I would appreciate it. Drop a like on this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Turn your notifications on to be here first and fastest to all the Brighton news as soon as it comes out. We upload multiple times a week. I speak about Brighton. Sometimes I do every day in a week. Sometimes I do 4 or 5 days in a week. But we're always here talking about Brighton, and I'm loving the community that we're building. So thank you very much. As always, thank you so much for watching. Where am I going with this? I feel like my head's a jungle after this game. But thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, let's just hope the Man City is at least going to be a good result, or at least we can see some of these players. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. And as always, up the Albion.